Eng the dog walker had our spare. He used it when I was home. Hook. The leash on the hook by our door had a stranger's handprint, the kind of shine that says someone practiced kindness for an audience of one. Our dog, Miso, wagged like a traitor who can't help himself. An appointment card was slid beneath the mat. Thanks for the emerge. Walk. Nate. Emergent wear. We live on a schedule that flosses. My husband had said he'd be late, inventory at the gallery, donors who need their generosity lit like a sermon. My phone pinged at 10:06 p.m. with the smart lock's cheerful violence. Front door. Unlocked by guest. I'm Avery, 35. I write copy that convinces people a recurring delivery will save their week and therefore their life. My husband Julian designs light for museums and pop-ups that pretend to be ideas. 4 years married, we've made civility into a high art. Coffee where a hand will find it. The good glasses, even for water, because ceremony should pull its weight. Kisses hung on the doorframe like receipts. We rarely break. The problem with rarely is that sometimes never would be safer. At 10:12 the door opened and the house had to pretend it wasn't listening. He came in with air on him and gratitude in his shoulders. Gratitude like a person who's just evaded blame. He set his keys in the dish as if the dish might testify. Miso did a small opera and then sat, as trained, because love is better with rules. Running late, Julian said, not lying exactly, just jogging the truth around the block. He saw the appointment card on the entry table. His mouth did the one honest thing it can do without permission. It forgot how to smile. Nate, I asked, the way a judge might ask a witness to pronounce his own name. Dog walker the gallery uses when the caterer brings real shrimp, he said, gratitude turning into a smaller, more private temperature. I had him swing by because loadout went long. Guest, I held up the phone with the lock app still open. Capital G, the kind of courtesy you reserve for strangers you want to keep. He didn't step forward, that was new. We have a choreography of forgiveness for minor crimes, hand to the shoulder, mouth to the temple, a joke to break the fall. He didn't audition it. I should have told you, he said, eyes trying to memorize my face before it changes. You should have asked me, I answered. I was home. The kitchen recognized us both and volunteered objects to the silence. The kettle clearing its throat, the refrigerator practicing patience, Miso sighing in the tone of dogs who have watched many men invent meaning out of snacks. I lifted the corner of the mat and showed him the card. He didn't touch it. He put both hands flat on the counter like he was refusing to flee a moving vehicle. I kissed him, he said, because if I love Julian for anything, it is his refusal to rehearse when the performance has already started. Twice. Once because I wanted to be chosen without auditioning. Once because I wanted to hurt us hard enough to move. Both times I thought of you. Both times I kept going. Some truths are announced, and some are placed in your palm like a room key with your initials filed off. I pressed my hand to the square between his shoulder blades, the exact inch where his lungs remember their job when mine forget. And for one stubborn, humiliating minute, we breathed like people who still intend to finish the same sentence. Where? I asked, and the word did not want explanation, it wanted topography. Here, he said, the worst possible syllable delivered like a sacrament. He came to pick up the leash. I asked if he wanted water. We stood by the window and pretended the city was instructive. He closed his eyes the way men do when they are asking their eyelids to be doors. I gave him the guest code because he'd forgotten the poop bags. Miso thumped his tail on the floor, punctuation masquerading as percussion. The lock app blinked a cheerfulness I could take to court. Do you want me to leave? I asked, surprising both of us. I want to stay and be worth staying for, he said. Then he did the thing I was waiting to ask for. He took my phone, revoked the guest pass, put my name on the only list that matters, and handed the device back with a hand that shook once and then remembered its training. "Change the master," he added, throat unsteady but not cowardly. "I'll learn it." I changed it. 4 numbers that meant nothing to anyone but us. He watched like men watch light, looking for the part where brightness becomes responsibility. We had, months ago, invented a ritual because the world refuses to be less dramatic and our nervous systems are unionized. I pulled the blue painter's tape from the junk drawer and made a one-hand square on the kitchen window. Above it, with the pencil that lives by the calendar, I wrote 807. We'd learned to do this every night we remembered being people. 4 minutes in the square with his palm between my shoulders and breath obeying. 3 minutes of inventory, 3 facts, 2 fears, 1 want. No prosecution. Water in the good glasses at 8:20 because a small sound sometimes prevents a large noise. "Now," I said, though the clock was arguing for later, "we start now." He set his palm to the square of my back, and for 60 seconds we did not hire adjectives. The city outside gave its affidavit, sirens practicing remorse, a bus deciding, someone laughing like survival, but we didn't narrate. By minute 3, his mouth found the place under my jaw that believes in us more than we deserve. Clean. Explicit enough to make the window consider learning our names. At 8:12, that is, whatever time it wanted to pretend to be, he told 3 facts like a penitent who'd fired his PR team. He had texted Nate not to come again. He had told the gallery coordinator to stop outsourcing emergency to men with good wrists. He had put a block on his calendar labeled "Do Not Shop for Oxygen." His fears were smaller than theater and larger than gossip. His want was my name without the grin we use when we need a joke to carry a suitcase up the stairs. I did my list. Facts that didn't require flair. Fears that did not dress as prophecy. Want that answered his want instead of debating it. At 8:20, the water in the good glasses made their unambitious hymn. The erotic part was not the dog walker or the door. It was obedience done with tenderness. It wasn't tidy. The next day at 3:15, my phone buzzed a push alert. No app confessed to scheduling. Listen to 11 seconds of water. Present/bus stop, I texted. Present/catwalk, he replied, which is Lightman for I'm up where the weight is, making sure nothing falls on you while you walk under it. At 6:02, the doorbell made its uncoached sound. The camera caught the now familiar shape. White shirt open a violable amount, sleeves rolled with patient cruelty, a face that would be forgiven in fluorescent and worshipped under any mercy. I opened the door because peephole morality is not my kink. Nate held Miso's spare harness like a talisman, and his own posture like a man who has decided not to audition for villain. "I came to return this," he said, and then, because decency loves to see if it looks good on him, "Do you want me to leave?" "Yes," I said. Then, because my mother is a religion, "Thank you." He nodded once. He did not touch Julian's knuckles with that criminally intimate 2-finger punctuation. He had already learned our liturgy. He placed the harness on the mat and went down the stairs like someone who knows what doors are for. We replaced the lock cylinder that evening. Hardware is honest, coarse threads, the right torque, patience disguised as pliers. Julian stood on the chair and unscrewed yesterday from our frame. I held the flashlight and chose a future where we tell the truth about screws. Lefty-loosey, righty-tight, plus the part where if it binds, you back it out and start cleaner. When the bolt slid into place, the door learned our names again. We walked Miso together the next morning, a leash like a treaty between hands that had recently misplaced their best selves. On the corner, the streetlight that's been misbehaving for months tried to perform redemption and almost did. Julian laughed, short, unhandsome, alive. He squeezed my wrist like a tip I would tip back. There were fights, the competent kind people have in apartments where walls overhear. I asked why strangers' attention sounds like a life-saving device in the pool he calls his day. He asked why I polish our dignity until it slides off the table. I said I am tired of writing copy for us that reads like compliance. He said he forgot he could ask me for noise. We traded sentences heavy enough to work and small enough to carry. He said Nate's name twice like inventory and never as weather. He said mine like an address he pays taxes on. The gallery sent an email the following week. Thank you to our emergency volunteers. It included a photo of Nate holding miso like a borrowed book. I opened the image and did not forward it. At 8:20 that night, I read the subject line aloud, gratitude, an art form, and Julian kissed the corner of my mouth the way feedback deserves to be taken. We started a new custom at the border of home. When one of us opens the door, we say out loud, "I'm in," because the difference between present and sorry is the difference between a map and a searchlight. The hallway light is on a sensor now. It wakes when we break the air the room owns. If one of us must be late, he texts present place, and we pretend not to be poets when we adore the ritual's grammar. The lock clicks like a paid witness. We treat it kindly so it keeps telling the truth. Miso learned our new schedule faster than we did. At 8:05, he pads to the kitchen and sits like devotion learned from a YouTube tutorial. At 8:07, he heaves that dog sigh that translates to "humans are exhausting and I will stay anyway." And Julian's palm finds the square between my shoulders with the competence of someone clocking in. We saw Nate again, of course we did. Cities are suspiciously small when they want to test you. He was outside a pet store, arms full of a ridiculous bag of grain-free kibble and a conversation with a man wearing earrings shaped like punctuation. He lifted 2 fingers, the neutral salute that means weather, not invitation. I answered the same. Spite is expensive. I intend to retire loved. On a Tuesday, the museum hosted a preview for an installation made from dangling glass that looked like rain if rain had the budget to hire an agent. Julian had to tune the light until the glass understood its vocation. "Walk with me," he said after apologizing to 3 donors for a buffet mishap they found amusing. We went up the back stairs to the catwalk where crews leave coffee cups like prayer candles. He adjusted a dimmer. The room below us exhaled in a way I wished most rooms would. "Here," he said, hand out, palm up. I stepped into the space he made, our shoulders touching because altitude is erotic when you remember to be careful. Clean. Explicit enough to teach Steele a name. The security camera knelt and decided to retire. Nate texted once more with punctuation that makes grown men trustworthy. "I'm out of your story. Be good to the dog." It was infuriatingly adult. I answered, "Thank you for returning the harness." He sent a thumbs up that did not ask to be a metaphor. Relapses found us like weather. One night his phone glowed at 1:23 with a name we both dislike, not Nate's, another man with an appetite for emergency. Julian let it ring. He turned the phone face down on the dresser like manners are still a technology worth installing. In the morning, I answered his inventory with a joke, and he said my name twice until the comedian on my tongue sat down and took notes. We are still men who forget. We are trying to be men who remember sooner. People ask, in bathroom lines and under misbehaving streetlights, and at dog parks where gossip hides behind ball throwers, whether there was a villain. They want me to say a man with forgiving wrists, or a gallery with forgiving shadows, or a husband who outsourced urgency to a calendar and a lock. The truth humiliates us evenly, which is the only relief with a warranty. The villain was the version of us that treated heat like an errand and romance like a feature. The miracle was repetitive and small: knock on our own door. Say where we are, place a palm where breath listens, count to 60, try again. The erotic part wasn't the white shirt rolled one button too far, or the capital G in guest, or a leash that remembered a stranger's hand. It was water in the good glasses clicking like literacy we finally agreed to learn. It was my name in his mouth at the window's blue, spoken like rent paid on time. It was his hand on my back in public, quick, nothing for cameras, everything for the animal I am. Last night he brought home a new brass hook and installed it beside the door. He stamped a small tag with miso like a man who believes in labels and the dignity of nouns. He hung the leash there and wrote in Sharpie on the wall calendar, "Walks belong to us." At 8:07, Miso settled on the rug like a priest. Julian set his palm where it belongs. The city tried to tell us a story about sirens and victory and loss. We let the city perform. We did not audition for it. We practiced the difficult sport of staying. Tonight at 7:58 I will set my phone face down like manners are still software we want. At 8:07 his palm will find the back of the heart and the tape will remember why it was hired. If we miss, we'll do the only miracle repetition ever makes plausible. Try again. 8:17, 10, 10, 11, 11, whenever Mercy clocks in. Somewhere a dog walker is writing thanks for the emerge. Walk on a card for the wrong home. Our door knows our knock. It keeps opening when we ask it to.